I guess off the bat, just thank everybody for coming and giving our kids and the program some exposure. A little bit of change in this year's NCAA championships, which is actually brought on from our Coaches Association as well as ESPN. Is like we said, it's Wednesday through Saturday, but the way the format's going to be is prelims for males will be on Wednesday, prelims for females will be Thursday, finals for males Friday, finals for females Saturday. So you'll have exclusive male, female throughout the competition. The only thing that overlaps is the multi-event, the decathlon and the heptathlon. That will be Wednesday, Thursday. But everything else, it goes male, female, and then next year it will switch back the other way. This makes it much easier for TV. Obviously, they can just talk about females one day, just talk about males the next. But it is going to be a little different because there's going to be less rest time for people that double. It'll be less, especially if you're doing an open event and coming back doing a relay. Usually you have male and female events, so it gives you a little bit more time to get rest. So that's probably the only biggest change that as coaches, it's been the first time that this has occurred. It'll be kind of a little bit of a chess match throughout the actual competitions. And I guess I'll open it up for any questions.
I think you talked after the SEC championships about how you coach in the regular season and then how you coach in the championships. How does that change now heading in?
Well, obviously the biggest adjustments is making sure that you don't overdo it at the end of your regular season. Obviously we had a lot of different moves that we could have done, double, tripled kids up at the SEC meet, but then knowing going into the first 2 rounds of nationals and then getting about 7 or 8 days and going to the second for our final 2 rounds of nationals, you don't want to overly kill your kids so that they can't perform in those 4 rounds, because obviously the 4 rounds at the NCAA championships, everybody's good. You don't have anybody that's not good. So you can't be 1% off. I mean, for example, 1% in the 400 meters is a half a second. Well, half a second, there's no chance you're making on to the next round. 1% in 800 meters is a whole second. There's not a such thing as, hey, so-and-so's not at 95%. And they're going to be able to play well. Not in track and field. You can't be any off. So if you overdo training, you don't give enough rest between sessions. If you overdo racing, that could end up having a kid be a 0.5% off, and 0.5% you're gonna not make it to the next round. So you really go into national championships just almost like a heavyweight fight. You take whatever hits you get, but stay on your feet, don't get knocked out, and try to keep all your kids remaining in the actual pool. And we were able to do that. We think we might have lost one person that was supposed to go on to the 3rd round, but then we gained some kids that weren't supposed to go to the 3rd round. So we actually compensated for it, whereas you've got other programs that lost a lot of kids that were supposed to go on to the 3rd round. So you try to make decisions of not necessarily having to win their event at the first 2 rounds, but just make sure you make it on. And we've done a very, very good job of that.
You talk about multiple events during the days. How do you balance, I know, Erica, off the top of my head, with the heptathlon and then doing qualifying for the prelims? How do you balance and get her enough rest?
Obviously, Erica's has been the most difficult to set back and plan and look at. And then to give you an example, at the SEC meet, heptathlon did very well in the heptathlon. But we wanted her to come back and run the hurdles. Well, the way it was scheduled, she's going to get 3 hours rest. But then lightning delay came in and sucked up 2.5 hours of that. So she had to run that 845 minutes later, run the prelims, the 100 hurdles. That is not the way we scripted it. But obviously she's the type of an athlete that, I'm going to get to the finish line and I'm going to make the finals. Didn't have to win her race. She just needed to run good enough to make the finals, get a whole day rest, and come back. So sometimes, again, they don't necessarily have to push themselves to the point where they've got to win. Just make sure you make that last round. And then the last round, you give everything you got at that point. She is a little bit more difficult. But we did try to pick events. Like, for example, here at the NCAA championships going to Oregon, you got the heptathlon, and then she has a rest day, and then she has the high jump. The only thing that really we had to kind of look at a little bit closer was the hurdles. We went ahead and declared in the hurdles just because she's running so well in the hurdles right now, to give her that opportunity. So, but that's the same day, I think maybe an hour and 45 minutes after the 800 of the heptathlon. Knowing that she did it in 45 minutes here tells us that she probably can do it there as well, hopefully. And if she's able to do that again, she gets a rest day and gets to come back the next day. So, but that's the only two things we did. I know she let off the 4x4 relay that made it on to Eugene, but she will not run the 4x4 in Eugene. We used her to make sure we could get the team actually there. So, but the rest of them, they've doubled, triple before in high school. Obviously it's going to be less rest than what we've had all year. Maybe the second day, the finals day for the men, when they come back, if they make the 4x4 finals, it'll be a less rest than maybe they've had all year, but it's the last event of the year as well. So, and if you've made finals, as long as you finish, you score a point. So, and points are hard to come by at that fourth round and level. So, should be no issues.
Coach Zach Taylor had 8 personal bests in the decathlon at the SECs, and now he's going to nationals. How do you carry over a performance as good as that to Eugene?
Well, PR in 8 out of 10 events, number one, I would love for that to happen again, but it's not much of a chance of that going to happen again. So what you've got to do is maybe take 3 or 4 events out of the 10 where you really PR in those events, which will compensate for maybe the other 4 where you didn't PR, but you still come out scoring more than the 74-66 that he scored. So to give you an example, we've worked a lot on the long jump. We've worked a good bit on the pole vault. Those are 2 areas we felt like he can improve a good bit and PR by a good amount. And then probably the third event, if he runs the actual 400 the right way, he's going to run faster than the 400 as well. So we got 3 events that we feel like he can PR again by a good bit. And then the other events, you got to protect what you did to get there. So in other words, you can just match what you did to get there. We're going to be okay. To run 1065 again is going to be tough. There's a couple of events that's going to be tough to duplicate it, but there's some that we know he's going to improve a good bit more on. Zach's going to surprise some people in Oregon as well. I'm very confident of that.
Who are some other athletes that may surprise some people in Oregon?
Well, I hope everybody we got. I think Mississippi State on both sides is going to surprise some people, to be honest with you. I think if anybody that was at regionals, anybody that's seen how our kids competed at SEC meet, we were a pretty vicious group. We're very aggressive, vicious, and it's all about the team and less about, well, let me see what I can do for myself. So I don't think I can pick just one individual because they're all, almost every one of our kids are scheduled to be a point scorer at the NCAA championship, so you're not going to be a surprise. Zach's not supposed to be a point scorer, but I feel like he's got a chance to do it. If there's going to be any surprises, I believe it's going to be on both teams being higher than what maybe we're ranked or what people think we're going to be, because we've been doing that all year long.
Can you talk about the consistency of your women's distance runners? Look like they've all had success, and then individually at Price winning the 1500.
Well, I think the biggest thing with the women's distance runners is that they've got a very good nucleus and a good group to train with. So every single day, if one girl's off, the other girl's on, she kind of pulls the other one through, and then the next workout 2 or 3 days later, maybe the other one's off, so the other one pulls that one through. So having the dynamics of that going back and forth, I believe, has helped them both get a lot better. If Rianne's not at Mississippi State or Rianne's not running what she's running, I don't think Marta is able to improve after the knee surgery she had as fast as she did. But yet on the flip side, Rianne's probably not running as fast as she did if she don't have Marta the last 6 weeks to be able to train with as well. So I think the dynamics behind that's been really good.
Brendan's talked about the pressure this year for trying to defend his national title. He's going back. Can you just talk about maybe trying to push him in the right way, doing it the right way so he doesn't feel all that pressure from you or from the coaching staff?
Well, I don't know how much pressure he feels from me unless I just get upset at him or something. I don't think any kid can go into it thinking they're doing it for somebody else. And obviously sometimes if they feel like they're doing it for their coach, that's probably a very bad foundation that they're building their career on. Ultimately, I think what Brandon's got to do is what everybody else has got to do is, I'm trying to be better today than I was yesterday, and I'm trying to be better tomorrow than I was today. Now, if that ends up being first place in the national championship, that's great. But if you fall short of a national championship, but yet you're better than you were yesterday, what else can a person ask for? If you look at it that way, then you don't have to have as much pressure on you. If you're aggressive in what you do, if you're aggressive in your races, A lot of times you don't have to have a plan B, C, D, and E. You don't have to have those plans because you know what your plan is. You're going to be aggressive. You're going to make everybody else run your race, and if they do, then they're probably going to suffer for running that type of race. Versus if you run their race, at that point you've let a lot of people in the competition that probably shouldn't be in the competition. And you'll get a chance to talk to Brandon if you hadn't already. I think he's probably learned in the last few months from indoor all the way till now that you can't train one way and then race another one. You just don't do that. It'd be like shooting free throws one way, then you get no gain, then you flip and shoot the other way. I mean, why would you do that? We're learning that we can't do that. If you're gonna beat us, you're gonna beat us chasing us down.
He led in the SECs, and he said you wanted to tweak his running style just because he's a bigger, taller runner. How is that transition?
It's not just about leading. It's leading and making sure the velocity of the pace is at a right velocity as well. They're going to let Brandon lead just because even at 52 seconds through the quarter, that's still pretty aggressive for 99% of the 800-meter runners in the NCAA. Now, if he wanted to run 54 or 55 seconds through the first one, yeah, somebody would pass him and somebody else would lead. But then at that point, you've really played into their hands. Brandon, I think if you go back and look at his races, and I'm not telling anybody a secret here, people can go back and look at film. If he's faster than 52 seconds through the quarter and keeps pushing through 6, it's very difficult for people to handle that amount of lactic acid and handle that pace, and then they can't kick off of it. If he's slower than that, if he's 118 high, 119 at 600, if he's 52 point through 400, he lets over half the field into the race with him. And at that point, everybody can kick. So you're drawing out of a hat who's going to win the race at that point. You can go back and look at lots of races, and you'll see that's what happens. We're not doing crazy things by having him lead. I mean, you can look at his training and know that at 51 point and 117 point, he can handle that with no problem. It's not like it's the first time we've done it in a race. So as long as he hits those checkpoints, he's a very difficult person to beat at that point.